Hello everyone, I have a very sudden video for today. I wanted to make a video that was as fast as I could, I guess, so try to forgive the lack of editing and grammar if you can. I was just too excited to put this video out, and it actually could not wait. I want to discuss the lore of the Forsaken Hollows DLC, or at least my theories regarding it. Now, I've only played a tiny fraction of the DLC so far, but the amount of ultra-condensed lore possibilities was just mind-boggling. Before I find out the true lore and know as much as I can, I wanted to make a video on these theories, and that is what you are listening to today. So first off, the Dreglord. Who is he? What is he? His appearance is so sudden. It's within the first 5 interactions of the DLC. Seriously, it goes like this. You talk to the butler guy, you talk to the jar, you open the door, and boom, there he is. His appearance is clearly meant to take up a large chunk of your thought process. I want to cover his visual appearance first. He has a very noticeable visual similarity to Manus, the Father of the Abyss. But I think it's just as important to note the things that are different. For one thing, his weapon, the little horn that he seems to be carrying. It's very reminiscent of the people that are underground and worshipping the ancient spirit, those little guys that I don't actually know the name of their group. He also is not shrouded by abyss. Now, he may not be in his full form on this first encounter, so this point may not matter, but his name is also vastly different from Manus. His title is the Dreglord. Unlike the Father of the Abyss, it does not suggest that he's the origin of anything, just the ruler. Now, talking to the scholar, an important thing to note is he tells us distinctly that the Dreglord is not Hailstorm. He says they are hardly even connected and are just separate entities altogether, and that the world faces multiple threats. So from the scholar's POV, they are completely separate, and if his word is to be trusted, which so far I have found no reason to doubt him, then we can confirm his identity is not Hailstorm or any variation of it, and it's possibly unrelated to any previous Elden Ring lore, which I do believe to be the strongest possibility. I think he is entirely and solely connected only to NightReign's lore and the Dark Souls lore. And the biggest hint that I can think of is his name, Dreglord. What does it even mean? If you've played Souls games before, the word Dreg should be familiar. It is used in the Dark Souls 3 DLC. It regards to the world after it is crumbling from the fire of fading. The definition of Dreg goes as follows: the remnants of a liquid left in a container, together with any sediment or grounds. That's just the first definition. The second definition is just as, if not more important than the first one, because the term, at least in the Dark Souls universe, seems to be used in a combination of both definitions at once, because it also means the most worthless part or parts of something. So, in the world of Dark Souls, the Dreg heap is referring to the leftovers of the world, specifically the worthless scrap of it that's left over after the fire has run its course. Clearly, whatever this lord is, whether he's the lord of the Dreg heap that we were just talking about or not, his position as ruler tells us that he either brings ruin or comes from it. It's possible this includes the Abyss. Maybe he is just Manus, and his Phase 2 will bring out the Abyss in him. I see this very unlikely, but it is technically still possible. With Artorias being confirmed in the DLC's trailer, we know at least the Abyss or some aspect of it still exists. So until I play more, I can't rule anything out. Another point I want to bring up before I state my actual theory is the stances of the other Night Lords. Now, it seems that every Night Lord is the leader of a realm or a land that was conquered by the Night, or from a land that fell into ruin and drew the Night into it. From there, the leaders are seduced to join, or they are also conquered, and thus forced into the will of the Night. Now, if this holds true for the Dreglord, then this means that there is a relation between him being consumed by some kind of tragedy, or that some kind of tragedy befell his kingdom before he joined the Night. My theory, while taking a few creative leaps, goes as follows. The Dreadlord is not Manus, but rather, the Dreadlord is Manus's body, or at least a body built of a similar composition, being possessed by something else entirely. I think that what we see is some sort of Soul of Cinder-esque entity related to the Abyss, specifically, that was conquered by the Night and left to claim the scraps of the remaining Dark Souls world after Dark Souls 3, or the Dark Souls 3 part where the Dregs Heaps was left. But even with that, there was certainly power remaining behind. Even when we fight Gale, the blood of the Dark Soul was an almost all-powerful thing. So he's definitely not a weak entity. Now, it could also be that the Abyss part will come in on phase 2 or 3 of the Dreadlord fight. Obviously, I have no way of knowing, as I only have the one encounter. But it seems to me that we have a champion from the lower rungs of Dark Souls, the quote-unquote downtrodden Abyss Dwellers, who have been sequestered away for too long, and then were recruited by the Night. What that means for the story, I can't say beyond this singular theory. I'll find out more. I also think it's important to note that if he is supposed to be the equivalent of the Night Lord just for the Dark Souls universe, I do believe it makes sense that he would be so vastly different, because the Dark Souls universe has a very unique relationship with how it progresses its timelines. Even without the Knight's interference, the ruin that befalls the world is very similar to what we see at the end of Night 3 when we are fighting a Night Lord. So I think that regardless of its connection to the Night, the Dark Souls universe holds a bit of a special case scenario where even if there weren't any other factors involved at all, the Night Lord was always going to be something special from there, simply because of how much condensation of power we see in one person by the time that the universe collapses. And that's without interference, too. If there was an entire Night calamity going around, killing everything else except for the strongest, the people left behind would be immensely powerful. And I'm very excited to see what his Phase 2 is. Before any further theories, I just want to say that I love that the DLC seems like it will seamlessly blend in the way Shadow of the Erdtree did with Elden Ring. The story it tells doesn't seem to conflict with it at all. It just adds onto it and will possibly clarify things that we could have already known if we just looked closer. And I think that is a great move on their part. I am very happy to note that they did not change anything, it seems, about the lore of the base game, but rather they're just adding on to the knowledge of what we could learn about the Night, the thing that's specific to this game. Moving on, I also have a theory regarding the Undertaker. Now, it would take a lot of research and linking videos to catch people up to my way of thinking, which I might do later on, but just not in this video. I would be happy to find and link him if I can, but I just wanted to get this video out fast. Essentially, I think the Undertaker may be a follower of Velka from Dark Souls. Note some of her first dialogue. She cannot be a source of confessional, even if you should want it. She also says that she worships a deity that she knows nothing about. I think this deity is Velka. First off, her armor design is frankly quite similar to what we would expect her priestesses to wear. It has the black leathery texture and then the stark white to compare it. There's no gold overlaying, but that's the only difference that I could find aside from the general shape as well, but we only encounter male followers of Velka, except for one other scenario. But that brings me to the other thing. Her general body shape is also quite thin and lanky, and yet she's still really strong. This is not unlike the crow demons that, if you read the lore, know are followers of Velka that have been turned into those demons. And as for not knowing the deity, well, some of the lore that is hard to summarize is that Velka seems to have a negative connection to the gods. Majority of her items all use intelligence, not faith, and a lot of her items' usages would imply they are opposed to the other gods. Her mere presence was already starting to fade a bit all the way back in Dark Souls 1. We had the one pardoner for Velka, and that was just about the only Velka source that was in existence. There's connections that imply that all of the clutch rings that look like crow's talons are directly connected to Velka. And if that's true, that means that her presence has already vanished from the minds of the people as it regards to that specific item. Which brings up the point that if her presence was already faded by a large amount all the way back in Dark Souls 1, what about way in the future, after Dark Souls 3? There is not a single chance in Dark Souls that any opposing religion, which, by the way, if this is all right, would be literally every other religion in existence would be opposed. There's no way that any of them would let her name keep existing. They would want to get rid of the worshippers of Velka. But even without that kind of opposition, it just wouldn't withstand the passage of time. Even someone as important as Gwyn starts to slowly have his name get removed from history by the time Dark Souls 3 comes around. They still know who he is, but it's a lot less prominent, his connection to everything that we see. Most importantly, this DLC seems to heavily lean into the Dark Souls connection of NightReign, and Velka is the sole goddess who is entirely known for her involvement in sin. And we can assume that the Undertaker is definitely from Dark Souls because of her ability, the Loathsome Hex. Hexes, out of all of FromSoft's games, are uniquely exclusive to Dark Souls. Most notably Dark Souls 2, but that may be something else entirely to wonder about that I don't want to get into. But speaking of Dark Souls 2, I was initially hoping that the Scholar would be Aldia, or have some direct connection to him. And he might, because I still haven't done his Remembered's questline, but it seems that these hopes might not bear any fruit, and I do wish that that was the case, because I absolutely love Dark Souls 2, and I would love to see more connections to it. I have some more things that I want to note, but I don't have any solid theories for them yet. But I wanted to bring them up because I think they may be important lore-wise. I wanted to note the enemies from the camps are vastly different. We have enemies from the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, but it seems like no weapons or bosses from that. Now, I believe they may be drawing a connection between the beliefs of these characters and the circumstances or beliefs of the Dreadlord. Also, the Kaidan mercenaries are a lot more important, having their own camps related to them sometimes. Their connections, however, I have nothing. I could not think of a single reason why they would be so important. But I also didn't spend that long wondering, because everything else that was already swimming in my brain. If it's not super obvious, I have a huge amount of playing left to do before I even have a decent start at what to know about the lore. But I really just felt like I had to get this short video out there. A large chunk was to have peace of mind and claim that I already had these theories when I did, if they turn out right, just because I think it would be fun to have that knowledge in mind and that proof that I was able to look ahead. But I also want to keep track of my thoughts, and videos like these are a great way for me to do that. So thank you for watching if you did, and I will definitely be back. As I find out more, especially about the lore of the 2 new characters, I will be making more videos. I might have to put a hiatus on my Elden Ring playthrough, if you were watching that. I will try to play here and there, so it won't just be like a complete dead-end stop, but I am not going to be playing anywhere near as frequently as it has been up until now. But thank you for watching, and if you have any input and you watch this video, please, please, please tell me your theories. I hate using this word because it reminds me of those fucking cringy ass advertisements, but I am literally obsessed with this, and I want to have any theories that you guys can provide, but please keep it to theories. Avoid spoilers, because if you're just going to tell me the contents of the game itself, I was already going to know that with time, and I just want to play and find out myself and have fun. But yeah, any theories? Welcome. Please tell me. Thank you again for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in my next videos.